is Sean Evans. Sean was at the Oberg Biobash with Sue Gee and team a few weeks ago, and we twisted his arm to do a presentation. Yeah, so Sean has been just spent a year on Marion Island. So to get to Marion Island, you sail for 5 days out of Cape Town. There's no landing strip there. It's too far to send a helicopter. So it really is kind of glorious isolation. So Sean, the Marion Island is a team of couple of dozen people, maybe. Most of them do weather, and some of them do biology. And Sean was part of the seal team on the island. So there's a group that does seal research. Has been doing it for decades. So Sean was lucky enough to join that team in the last year's team. So thank you, Sean. Over to you. Thanks very much.
Cool. Thanks, Les. Can you?
There you
awesome.
Go.
Thanks, Les, for the introduction. Yeah, it feels like I just got back, but it's been about 6 months already. So it's kind of strange talking about the island, and yeah, it's really nice to have this opportunity actually, especially with lockdown. We didn't have much opportunity to talk about our experience. So yeah, thanks so much. So Marion, like Les said, is quite far away from Cape Town. It's about halfway to Antarctica. And it was annexed in about 1948 by South Africa. And interestingly, it's actually the 9th district of Cape Town. And like Les said, I was a sealer, and I was employed by the University of Pretoria. And that was under the Marion Island Marine Mammal Program. And that's been going since 1973. And we've had a mark recapture program that's been going for the last 39 years. So it's a really nice program to be a part of, and it's making a real difference in that type of science, long-term monitoring. It's a really strong, scientifically productive involvement in the SANAP program, which is the South African National Antarctic Program. And yeah, we've been involved with other national Antarctic programs as well. So it's really international work, and it's quite nice to be a part of. There was also a big successful cat eradication program. And yes, that was very, very successful in about the 80s and the 90s. And there's actually a book that you guys can read about that, and a bit of a culmination of first-hand experiences by the previous hunters and the sealers that have been to Marion. So that's quite a nice read if you guys want to read that. I think I can maybe put a link in the email that you guys send out. So this is kind of what you see when you first get to Marion. So you see your home for a year, for 13 months. We actually didn't quite see this. We saw pretty much just white. It was whited over by a big storm. And we had to wait that out a little bit before we could jump across via helicopter, because that's pretty much the only way that we go back and forth from the island. And yeah, so I'm going to give you guys my kind of first-hand experience. So I worked mostly on these guys, which is the southern elephant seals. And this is the big mark recapture program that I was talking about. So we basically every year tag every seal, elephant seal that is born on the island, no matter where it is. So if we know that there's a seal being born somewhere, we have to go and tag it and make sure that it's tagged. And that forms part of this big monitoring program. Then later on, we go and re-site those tags as these guys grow older. So we have animals that are 25 years old, up to 25 years old, that we are reading tags of. And it's really cool to know that that animal was born 25 years ago on this island. And we can track all of that and answer some really interesting questions. The elephant seals, when they're born, they weigh already about 100 kilograms. So, and we have to weigh about 100 of them. So that forms part of our job. And luckily, we don't have to weigh anything any heavier than that, because I don't think that would be possible. And to do that, it is actually possible. We can take camera pictures, about 3 pictures at each angle, and you can actually put that into a model, a computational model, and it can give you, it kind of just spits out a weight estimate. And so we can get the weight of any seal on the island, which is quite cool. And we found that the big bulls, these are the big bulls, they weigh up to 3 tons, maybe even heavier. So yeah, they're big blubber bulls, and they're actually quite agile as soon as they pick up speed, and yeah, they're fun to work with. So the main task is to tag these seals, and that happens in breeding season. And in the top right there, you can see a big, what we call a harem, and that's a harem of seals. And yeah, I don't know if you can see the little black dots are the pups lying next to their moms, and they are suckling before they are weaned and left alone. So also on the bottom picture there, that's a really rare sighting of a fight. We don't really get to see many fights. I think we only saw 2. And I got this nice picture of one of the bulls fighting for his harem. So it's the way it works is that a bull basically is in charge of his own harem, and the bulls will fight for their harems. And sometimes the harems are so big that the bulls can't actually mate with all the females on that harem, and so he sometimes lets another what we call an assistant beach master to help him out. So here's a few photos of us working on them. Yeah, this is Tavis, who was also on the island with me. He was my fellow sealer, and another sealer was with us. So there was a team of 3, and yeah, they look big and scary, but sometimes they also look quite silly. So these are elephant seals, and they also like to hide between the king penguins, and it's sometimes quite hard to actually see where they are because there's just so many king penguins. So part of our program is we don't work just solely on the elephant seals. We also work on the fur seals, and there's 2 fur seal species, the subantarctic fur seals and the Antarctic fur seals. And then of course you can't forget the killer whales. And the killer whales, what we do with them is we do dedicated sightings at what we call the rock, which is about 100, 200 meters away from base, where we sit on the rock and we do dedicated hours waiting for killer whales to come past. And when a killer whale does come past, we take a photo of those killer whales, and we can actually identify them using photo IDs, because they each have a unique kind of marking or notch on their dorsal fin, and some of them have some notches and markings on their rump. So yeah, we can individually identify them, and they have some really interesting social structures and groups. It's a matriarchal society, so the males lead the group, and sometimes there's a few groups within that. So it's quite a social animal. I'm sure you guys know about killer whales. These are the Antarctic fur seals. They are really awesome. Their behavior is very different to the subantarctic fur seals. They are a lot more chilled and really, really nice to work with. Very, very curious animals, and you come up to them and look at them, and then you start walking away, and they follow you sometimes. It's really cute. And then these are the subantarctic fur seals. The males are a bit more unpredictable and sometimes more aggressive, but they're also lovely animals to work with. And this is me deploying a device or retrieving. I think I'm retrieving a device here with Melissa, who spoke last week about her birding. And And so, yeah, we also deploy some devices on the animals. In the top small picture there, that's one of our tags in one of the newborn pups. So yeah, that's one of our little tags. That's the tags that we use. The little plastic tags with numbers on them. And then, yeah, we also deployed this year some cameras on the seals, which was very exciting to see what they're doing while they're at sea. And we also deploy some TDRs, which are temperature profilers, and we can get some environmental conditions with GPS coordinates as well. So we can see where they're going. And that forms part of my master's, actually. I'm still currently working on that kind of data, which is quite nice that I got to do this type of field work, and now I'm working on the data. So I decided I'm going to do kind of a little round island adventure for you guys and take you on a round island. Sealers had to do a round island once a month at least. I ended up doing 10 throughout the year, throughout the 13 months. So we do take turns doing round islands. We don't have to do them together. So yeah, it's quite a nice, sometimes very solitary experience going around the island. And if you want to take it slow, do it in 7 days. It's about 100 kilometers of walking in gumboots and through mires, which are these really boggy, thick vegetations. So this is kind of leaving base, and on the right, you can see the top photo is, oh, let me start with the bottom photo. That's a harem at a place called Ships, which is one of the only beaches, sandy beaches on the island. And that is the same day as the picture above it. So you can see how variable the weather conditions can be on a single day. We can have nice clear conditions, and then in the top right, that's on the same day, and it's just completely covered with snow. This is actually one of the days that was probably the worst day on the island. I got this from Windy, and it was averaging around 84 km/h wind, probably gusting around 150 plus. And when it's only 1 degree Celsius, then the wind chill factor is real. So this is a map of Marion, and here you can see this is where base is situated, so in the northeastern section. And then the sealers, part of their job with the fur seals is to, quite close to base, on either side of base, we do something called taps and gaps. And TAPS stands for Tropicalis attendance patterns. And the Tropicalis is the scientific name for the subantarctic fur seals. So basically what we do is, for TAPS, we walk out into the field and we look for these guys, the pups of the subantarctic fur seals, and they've been tagged, and we can basically assess the attendance of the moms that are coming back to feed them. And from that, we can get some really interesting data about how often they're coming to feed, and get some sort of survivalship from that. And then we do the same thing with gaps. Gaps is just the gazellas. So instead of with the Tropicalis, we do it with the gazellas, the Antarctic fur seals. So leaving base, we're going to go on an anti-clockwise kind of round island. You can go either way, but I'm just going to do this for now. So here we go anti-clockwise to a hut called Repettos, and there's 8 huts around the island. Well, there's 9 huts. There's 8 coastal huts, and there's 1 hut that's called Katedral, and that is inland. So you kind of walk along these kind of landscapes. It's just masses of penguins at some sections, and what we're doing is we visit every beach as sealers, and we read the tags of the southern elephant seals. So we're reciting the tags that have been tagged, the seals that have been tagged from previous years, and we write down their age class, what we think the age class is, and the state of the tag and things like that. Of course, along the way, I would be quite biased if I wasn't putting in some bird photos. So here's some beautiful wandering albatross dancing with each other, which is really a sight to see. And then here's an example of the king penguins. These are actually king penguin chicks, the brown guys. And then the little guy by himself there in the middle is an adult king penguin looking after all his school children. And then this is a whole bunch of adult king penguins, and they really make for some really nice photos with the colors of their feathers. So then from Repetto's, we go to Cape Tavis, which is the next hut. This is Cape Tavis, and this is one of the sites where we actually do pup weighing. So we go to the beach, and there's a whole bunch of subantarctic fur seals there, and we have to pup weigh every month until August from January. And we have to weigh about 100 pups. So that's always a fun thing that we do, and we sometimes take base personnel, guys that are at base, and we get them involved. Next we go over one of the hardest sections to walk on the island. It's the fearful Azores, which is this section. And it's just a very hard section to walk. It's very ridgy, up and down, and it generally takes a few hours. And you're walking over stuff like this, which is called Azores because this is the Azerella Cushion, and it's a plant species an endemic plant species. Then we normally go from there so that's Mixed Pickle, and it's called the Sunset Hut for a reason. It's pretty much the only place on the island where you can get a really nice sunset, and yeah, it's one of my favorite huts. And then off to Swartkorps, which is the next hut. Swartkorps, there's the crowd pleaser is the Amphitheater, which is this massive theater of penguins, Mackie penguins. Then we go to the next hut, which is Rooks. Not many people really stay at Rooks. There's not much going on there in terms of animal life. But some of the botanists and winders and some of them stay there. So we don't have too much work there, but it's very nice walking through different kind of landscapes. And then off to Grey-Headed. And this is also one of my favorite parts of the island. It's just very wild, and you walk through a place called Santa Rosa, which is a huge lava flow coming down from the volcano. So that's really nice. And on the ridges, you can see a whole lot of grey-headed albatross. And so they've got some monitoring colonies there that the birders go and monitor. And here's some of the grey-headeds. And there's the hut in the top right corner. So you can see it's right in the middle of that big lava flow, which is just those black rocks that are super, super brittle, and quite interesting to walk over. Then we head to Water Tunnel, which is just a big grass plain, and we also do a pupway here. We do the Gazella pupway, so the Antarctic fur seals. And sometimes it can get really, really windy at Water Tunnel. You can see some nice lenticular clouds in the sky there, and that's generally when it's super windy. Those cliffs are around 150 to 200 meters high, so it's yeah, you can see the spray is just being flown up there. And then it's off to Kildalkey, which is another big penguin colony. And I thought I'd just put in some photos of the stuff we get up to in the huts. So this is us making pizzas. the finish of the round island. And then we can go, and we got really lucky going inland the one time. It's very rare that you get a nice day to be able to go inland. It's pretty much always windy and raining. So we got really lucky on this day. You can see there's hardly any clouds, and we got to go inland and explore a bit on the ice plateau. And then this is quite interesting. On the top right-hand corner, there's a photo of what we call needle ice. And it's actually ice that's grown from the ground. It grows upwards, and it pushes the little pebbles upwards, so that you've just got these little pebbles that are floating on ice, which is really cool. I didn't know about that before Marion, and I was walking on this stuff, and I found it and asked a fellow Marionite, and they knew what it was, and I found it really, really interesting. And then in the top middle section there, that's one of our what we call winders, and they study the wind on the island. They have all these instruments to study the wind at really fine scales. And she has a station in the interior, and it just got completely covered by snow. So she's looking very, very sadly at her station that's about a meter or two under snow, or ice actually. We couldn't dig it out. And then unfortunately, yeah, to end on a semi-bad note, it's not all glitz and glam. We do get some litter at the island actually, which is quite sad if you think that Marion is so isolated and so far away from everything. We actually ended up getting litter pretty much on every time we walked along the beaches. So that's, and then my friend Tavis and Tavis was the fellow sealer. There's us on the right picture. We're making a photo book. We're still in the process of actually making it, but if anyone's keen to purchase it or are just keen to look at some photos, just send me an email, and I'll let you know when that will be available. Yeah, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Sean. I think that could be described as little short of amazing. That was awesome. Thank you very much. And gosh, it's a tough environment. I spent a week or two on Marion Island, and I know something about what it's like. So you clearly suffering from a disease called Marion Island.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's months and months and months after an experience like that before you get your mind in the same place as your body is. So good luck with that. That was awesome. Thanks, Sean. Are there questions for Sean? So there's a question. I didn't catch.
Yeah, I see the question there.
Yeah.
So are the seals that survive to 25 all females? So we only get southern elephant seals, and the oldest female we've ever had was 25. The bulls only grow up to the age of around, I think the oldest we had was probably 15 or 14, maybe even 13. So definitely not as old. So yeah, the females can get to around 20, 25.
So the practical question is when you make pizza far away from base, you haven't made the pizza with ingredients that you've carried. The base of the huts get stocked at takeover time by helicopter, don't they? Is that right?
Yeah, they get stocked every year. Sometimes they don't get stocked with what you want them to get stocked, and sometimes certain huts get stocked with better things than other huts. But Kildalkey, the one that I was showing you there, was generally quite well stocked. So yeah, I think the only thing we had to take was some cheese from base, because we didn't have cheese. We don't have cheese at the huts. So nothing is really kept cold at the huts. It's kind of, nothing really goes off either because it's so cold in general, but it's not cold enough to keep everything fresh for over 10 years. So yeah, we do have quite a bit of ingredients at the huts, luckily. We don't have to carry everything.
Great. Other questions for Sean, which are properly biological?
I think there is a question here. Carlina is asking if you were ever in any danger regarding the seals.
Yeah, in the start you feel like you're in danger, but once you get to read the animals and really understand their behavior and how they react to certain things and how fast they react, it becomes really kind of second nature to work with them. So yeah, you never really feel too threatened by them, and when you do, you know when it's happening, and you get out their way, because it is their island, it's their natural habitat, and you're kind of disturbing them. So yeah, I think I wouldn't call them dangerous. I'd call them, that's their natural way of living, and I'm disturbing them. So there were some close calls though, I won't lie.
Great. Thanks, Sean.